Why America's enemies still fear the B-52 bomber. We've already examined the colorful analysis offered by Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte regarding his country's new jet fighter. So let's today look at the aviation insights offered by a politician on our home shores. In the September 26 presidential debate pitting Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump, when questioned about nuclear doctrine, Trump stated, "But Russia has been expanding there. They have a much newer capability than we do. We have not been updating from the news standpoint. I looked the other night. I was seeing B-52s. They're old enough that your father, your grandfather could be flying them. We are not. We are not keeping up with other countries." The gist of it appears to be the B-52 is an obsolete airplane that proves that the United States Air Force has fallen behind the rest of the world, particularly Russia. So what are they good for? Why is the U.S. Air Force still flying them? The B-52 has been deployed in virtually every major military conflict the United States has engaged in since the Gulf War. Why? The B-52 still has two things going for it. It can carry a lot of bombs and missiles, and it can carry them very far, minus 8,800 miles, before even factoring in in-flight refueling, which you should. The airframe also has a lot of space for upgrades. So basically, it's a long-distance bomb and missile truck. What if the target has air defenses? Then each B-52 can load up to 20 AGM-86 air-launched cruise missiles, which can carry both nuclear and conventional warheads across oceans and launch them from hundreds of miles away. If you need to surge a ton of firepower somewhere halfway across the world from the nearest airbase, the capability is there. But B-52s often haven't had to use expensive cruise missile because most of America's recent opponents, such as the Taliban in Afghanistan or ISIS in Middle East, don't have the powerful surface-to-air missiles necessary to shoot at a B-52 flying at high altitude. B-52s loaded with 12 JDAM GPS-guided bombs or 4 to 10 GBU laser-guided bombs can orbit over battle zones, awaiting close air support requests from troops on the ground. Of course, a jet fighter can do the same job, but fighters have shorter range and can't loiter overhead for nearly as long. When the United States intervened against the Taliban in Afghanistan in 2001, it was B-52s and more modern B-1s flying from the United States, lugging precision-guided bombs that dropped much of the initial ordnance because the U.S. Air Force did not yet have local air bases from which its fighters could operate from. Carpet bombing involves dropping hundreds or thousands of unguided bombs to carpet the target area. It's an indiscriminate technique which does have a nasty shock effect. The B-52 is certainly capable of it. It can carry 51 conventional 500 or 750-pound bombs, or around 40 cluster bombs. B-52s did perform low-level carpet bombing attacks against Iraqi troops stuck in exposed defensive positions in the middle of the desert during the 1991 Gulf War. It also produces tons of collateral damage and couldn't be employed near civilian areas without causing heavy civilian casualties for minimal military benefit. Carpet bombing during World War II, even on the occasions it was militarily effective, produced disproportionately civilian and at times even friendly casualties. Blowing up an ISIS-held city would clearly be a war crime. And if that isn't enough to dissuade, then the obvious political and military consequences should be. However, the Air Force is uninterested in carpet bombing today. It only works against densely concentrated targets, which certainly is not typical of the opponents it fights today. So what else are the BUFS good for? Being able to fly over great distances for hours is very handy for patrolling and interdicting large bodies of water. Think of the vastness of South China Sea, the control of which is contested by China. B-52s may not have the same sensors as the dedicated maritime patrol planes operated by the Navy, but some have been equipped with Lightning and powerful Dragon's eye surface search radar pods, which can detect and identify vessels. Some have also been modified to carry 8 AGM-184 Harpoon anti-shipping missiles, the latest version of which has a range of over 160 miles. So B-52s could play a useful role in a maritime conflict. Now that we're back to talking about the B-52 as a sort of missile truck, there is even talk of using them as flying arsenal planes, possibly even to carry anti-aircraft missiles. Insanity, you say? Hear this one out. U.S. fighters are limited in the numbers of air-to-air missiles they can carry, particularly stealth fighters. This could be a problem if faced by a numerically superior force. So instead, stealth fighters could ride point and use their hard-to-detect, active electronically, scanned array radars to spot approaching enemy aircraft, and then use data links and networking to relay that data to another platform such as a ship, or an arsenal plane, such as a B-52 or B-1 loaded with dozens of very long-range air-to-air missiles. For now, it's just a theory, and one with its limitations, particularly if the other side has stealth fighters. But it's one the Pentagon is actively considering. Enough with missiles, let's talk about one last application of the B-52. It serves as a highly visible means to make a show of force. Aircraft remain one of the more vulnerable ways to deploy a nuclear weapon when compared to ballistic missiles launched from submerged submarines or silos deep underground in the United States. But the latter two systems are hard to show off, whereas you can deploy a B-52 closer to a crisis zone and have it perform overflights to send a clear, threatening message. Silly diplomatic posturing of no military value, you say? In fact, a report recommends that the Air Force retain its nuclear weapon capabilities, primarily on the basis that it is a stronger means of communicating a threat posture when compared to other methods in the nuclear triad. Nobody actually wants to use nukes. The hope is that they will.